Alright guys, this video, we're going to do a combination of what we did on the last. We're going to look for a GCF, and then we can take it a second step further, where after we get the GCF, we're going to end up with a quadratic that we can factor into two binomials. Okay, only ones I'm going to do on this are number 4 and number 8. If we look at number 4, if I look at these numbers, 12, 22, and 20, the biggest number that goes into all of these is 2. Alright, so that's going to be part of the GCF. Now the other thing we notice, they all have x's, so we take the smallest one. So x is also going to be with the GCF. So always do the GCF first. So I'm going to pull out the 2x. Okay, then I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to line it up with these signs. Right, I'm going to bring down this plus, this minus I'm going to bring down. And then, alright, we ask ourselves, 2x times what quantity gives me 12x cubed? And that's going to be, what, 6x squared? 6x squared. Okay, then we say, alright, 2x times what number is going to give me 22x squared? That's going to be 11x. So I'm going to put 11x. And then, alright, 2x times what quantity is going to give me 10x, or 20x? Well, that was the answer right there. It's going to be just 10. But now, what we have in here, now I have, this is a quadratic trinomial, because now the highest exponent's 2. That's what we want. If we can get it down to a quadratic, we can factor this into two binomials. So I'm still going to have that 2x, the GCF, I'm going to bring that down. This, I'm going to factor into two binomials. So I'm going to put two sets of parentheses. Okay, and this, since this is 6x squared, I could have, 1x and 6x here, or 2x and 3x. It's all by trial and error. Again, this should be a review for you guys. I'm going to try the 3x and the 2x. 3x times 2x is 6x squared. The other thing I know, since this is a negative, one of these in here, these two binomials are going to be positive, one's going to be negative. And then I need factors for 10 here. So it's just 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. Believe 2 and 5 winds up working. I'm going to put this 2 here, put this 5 here. Okay, this is going to be a minus, and this is going to be a plus. And if you wanted to check this, so I'm not going to spend any time on this. You guys really should know how to do this already. It's an Algebra 1 skill. But if you FOILed this out, you should get this, 6x squared plus 11x minus 10. Okay, you should know how to do that. And that's your answer, because you can't factor that any further. All right, let's skip down to number 8. Now, number 8, if we look at this one, we notice the highest degree we have is 4, because that's x to the 4th. The other thing we notice, there is no GCF. Actually, there is a GCF, but what's going to happen is there's not going to be an x in the GCF because there's no x there. So let's put GCF. Let's see here, 30, 102, and 240. If you use your calculator, see what number goes into all three of those numbers. 6 turns out being the biggest number. So just by taking out the 6, it's going to make these numbers a lot smaller and a lot easier to work with. So I'm going to take out the 6, put the parentheses. Okay, line this up, so I have this plus, this minus here becomes a minus. Okay, let's see here, 6 times what number gives me 30x to the 4th, and that's going to be 5x to the 4th. Let's see here, 6 goes in 102 17 times. So that's going to be 17x squared. And then 6 goes into 240 40 times. So I put 40 right here. Now, just like the previous problem, on the inside, we can factor this even further. Now, you might be saying, well, it's not a quadratic, but we can treat it like a quadratic. Instead of having x squared here, I have an x to the 4th. Instead of this being an x, I have x squared. So I can still factor this into two binomials. I'm going to bring down the 6. Okay, I'm going to put two sets of parentheses. But here's the thing. When we factor this into two binomials, since this is x to the 4th, that means I'm going to have an x squared and an x squared here. So when I multiply those, it's going to give me x to the 4th. Okay, and only factors for 5 are 5 and 1. So I'm going to have 5x squared and x squared. So that's the one little difference there. And then again, this last number is negative, so I'm going to have mixed signs. And what winds up working is, if we, remember I want factors of 40, what winds up working is if I put plus 8 and then I put minus 5. Okay? And again, if you foiled this out, if you foiled this whole thing out, these two binomials, you would get this in the parentheses. The 5x to the fourth plus 17x squared minus 40. And then we couldn't factor this any further because I don't have an x term. And this is not, 5's not a perfect square. So this is an example where you can only factor to it where you have a quadratic for each of these. So that's your answer. You can't simplify or factor that any further.